Have you ever been, like, deeply hurt or betrayed and immediately someone just tells you to, toughen up?
Oh, constantly.
Right. Or maybe you've been called too sensitive or even, like, naive simply because you chose to trust someone again.
Yeah, I mean, we really have this collective assumption that the friction of the world is just supposed to create this emotional armor.
Yeah, you get hurt, you build a wall.
Exactly. Because it makes logical sense on the surface, right? Like when you lift weights, your hands build calluses to protect the skin.
Mhm.
So we kind of just expect the exact same biological rule to apply to the human heart.
Which is why we spend a tremendous amount of energy, just so much energy, trying to appear completely unfoolable.
Oh, absolutely.
In our careers, in our friendships, in dating, we view that emotional callousing as the ultimate sign of, becoming a serious, competent adult.
Right, you survive by hardening,
Oh.
which is exactly what makes the premise of today's deep dive so incredibly counterintuitive.
It really is.
We are unpacking a genuinely groundbreaking 2026 book. It's by Anna Kriger, and it's titled The Wise Innocence, Guarding Inner Light and Refusing to Harden, published by Altaspero Publishing.
And what's so compelling about Krieger's work is how she takes this whole concept of innocence and completely flips the script.
Oh,
She argues that society has just misread it entirely. Like, innocence isn't some childish phase of ignorance you're supposed to outgrow.
not at all.
Right. It's actually a deliberate, highly evolved stance. It is the conscious decision to keep a clean heart after you have experienced the cruelty of the world.
Which is such a wild paradigm shift. Because if hardening ourselves is supposedly the pinnacle of maturity, Krieger actually views it as a massive failure of imagination.
Yeah, like a failure to cope, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She considers a hardened heart not as a badge of honor, but as this tragic loss of capacity.
But to understand why building that emotional armor is a failure, I
Yeah.
think we first have to, disentangle true innocence from the word people constantly use to weaponize it.
You mean naivety.
Yes, naivety.
Right. Krieger makes a really crucial distinction between the two, and it fundamentally changes how you view vulnerability. Because naivety is simply, it's an informational deficit.
Okay, so they just don't know better.
Exactly. A naive person has no working model of bad faith in the world. They literally do not have an internal threat detector installed yet. They trust everyone because they fundamentally just haven't learned not to.
So naivety is like living in a house with no smoke detector.
Yes,
If there's a fire, you just happily sit on the couch while the walls burn down around you.
that's the perfect way to put it. Innocence, by contrast, is a choice made with full awareness.
Okay.
The innocent person has the smoke detector installed. They hear the alarm. They feel that faint, unsettling sense of wrongness when a charming swindler enters the room.
The red flags.
Right, they see the red flags, but they choose to extend trust anyway as a default posture while keeping their eyes wide open.
So cynicism, then, is hearing a smoke detector go off once, panicking, and deciding to just live in a fireproof underground bunker for the rest of your life.
Huh, yes, exactly.
While Krieger's innocence is having the working smoke detector, knowing exactly where the fire extinguisher is, but still choosing to invite people over for a dinner party.
I love that. It reframes the entire concept so beautifully.
But I mean, how do we end up trapped in that bunker to begin with?
Well, we get there through a mechanism Krieger calls the fork.
The fork.
Yeah. She illustrates this through a really powerful case study of a man named David. So David had built this super successful, thriving business with a close friend.
Okay.
But then, out of nowhere, that partner embezzled a significant amount of money and just vanished.
Oh, wow. A devastating classic betrayal scenario.
Truly. So David was left professionally devastated and personally heartbroken. And when you face a profound injury like that, you arrive at the fork.
Because you have to make a choice about how to move forward.
Right. Your brain has to update its map of the world to keep you safe from future harm. So the local update is realizing this specific person, your former partner, cannot be trusted. You lock that specific door.
But the temptation is to make the global update,
Yes.
to conclude that no one can be trusted. You, overgeneralize the injury to cover all of humanity.
Because a global update feels much safer.
Yep.
And it requires significantly less cognitive energy than evaluating every single new person you meet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But Krieger argues that true innocence is making the local update, but vehemently refusing that global despair. It's keeping the hard-earned lesson, but rejecting the cynicism.
I have to argue with Krieger a little bit here, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
Reframing this as innocence sounds beautiful and poetic on paper, but in the real world,
Yeah.
Leaving your heart open when you've been burned before is physically and emotionally exhausting.
It is.
I mean, if your open heart leaves you drained, constantly replaying conversations, and hyper-vigilant to other people's moods, doesn't this high-minded philosophy just leave you as a rumination-prone liability in, say, a cutthroat corporate environment?
Well, it's a completely fair challenge. And honestly, it brings us to what might be the most fascinating part of Krieger's research.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because she integrates neuroscience with moral philosophy to explain the physical toll of this stance. She details how high sensitivity isn't a personality flaw or a weakness, it is a biological substrate.
Okay, a biological substrate.
Right. The human brain is fundamentally a prediction machine.
Generating constant guesses about the world and, like, checking those guesses against incoming sensory data to keep us alive.
Exactly. And sensitive brains run a much hotter prediction engine,
Hotter meaning what, exactly?
meaning they don't just feel emotions more deeply in some abstract sense, they literally discard less sensory data.
Oh, wow.
Think of the biological mechanics here. When a brain predicts a social or physical danger, it triggers the autonomic nervous system.
Sending cortisol and adrenaline flooding into the bloodstream, the classic fight or flight response.
Right, so for a highly sensitive person, a passive-aggressive comment from a coworker isn't just mildly unpleasant. Their prediction engine flags it as a severe relational threat, dumping those stress hormones into their system.
So that is how a mundane social interaction turns into literal physical exhaustion.
Yes, because they are processing a massive amount of data that a less sensitive brain simply deletes or ignores.
Like her example of the open plan office.
Yes, the open plan office is the perfect example.
While some people easily filter out the humming fluorescent lights, the background chatter, and the clicking of keyboards, the sensitive person's brain is processing all of it.
Every single input.
Right. Cataloging every microexpression, every shift in tone of voice, all day long.
So by 4 p.m., they are completely overstimulated. It's a high-capacity receiver working in absolute overdrive.
So it's not a broken piece of equipment, it's just a hypersensitive studio microphone.
Right.
If you take that microphone into a stadium rock concert, it distorts and screeches. You don't throw the microphone away and call it weak.
Yeah.
You recognize it's built to capture the nuance of a whisper, not survive a wall of amplifiers.
Exactly. But the tragedy is that when you are the microphone, you feel broken. You start telling yourself a narrative about your own inadequacy.
The classic, I'm just too sensitive.
Yes. And Krieger warns that this specific inner voice is incredibly dangerous.
Why a dangerous?
Well, when you say to yourself, I am too sensitive, you're instructing your brain's prediction engine to view your own depth as a defect.
Oh, I see.
You're training the machine to attack itself. The brain listens to the stories we tell it, and if we label our own biology as the enemy, we are constantly at war with our own nervous system.
So the goal isn't to toughen up the hardware then? Because you can't change your biology.
You can't. You change the inner sentence.
Okay.
Instead of I am too sensitive, it needs to be I am sensitive and I need protection. You acknowledge the high-capacity nature of your receiver, and you actively manage the environments you place it in.
But, managing the environment isn't just about finding a quiet room.
Right, unfortunately.
It's about dealing with other people. Because this sensitivity, this refusal to harden, it deeply irritates some people.
Oh, it really does.
And not even malicious people, just normal, quote-unquote, seasoned adults who roll their eyes and mock you for it. Why does a clean heart provoke such hostility?
Well, Krieger has a brilliant take on contempt that completely changes how you view those interactions.
Tell me.
That cynic who condescendingly smiles and tells you, you'll learn how the real world works.
Yeah.
They aren't actually offering wisdom.
No.
No, their contempt is fundamentally grief that became arrogant.
Wait. Grief. That is the absolute last word I would associate with a smug cynic.
Right. But think about the psychology of the interaction.
Yeah.
The innocent person acts as an involuntary mirror.
A mirror?
Yeah. Krieger sets a scene at a dinner party. Imagine someone tells a really cruel, mocking joke about a mutual acquaintance who isn't there.
Okay.
Everyone chuckles to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
But the gentle person at the table doesn't laugh. They don't preach. They don't scold the group. They simply quietly state that they like the person being mocked.
Oof. We've all been at that table. Suddenly the temperature drops. Everyone shifts in their seats, subtly annoyed at the person who ruined the fun.
Exactly. And they are annoyed because that gentle person just reminded the cynics in the room of the fork they themselves faced long ago.
Ah, the fork again.
Yes. The moment those cynics chose to harden, abandon their own ideals to fit in, and called it growing up.
Wow.
The innocent person's mere presence is walking proof that hardening wasn't actually mandatory. There was a third road, and they didn't take it.
So the cynic has to mock the innocent person as naive to protect their own self-justifying story?
Yes.
Like, if the gentle person is just a naive child who hasn't been educated by the real world yet, then the cynic's loss of their own clean heart wasn't a tragedy.
Right.
It was just a necessary, inevitable education.
The mockery serves as a psychological defense mechanism. It's not a report on the innocent person's naivety. It is a report on the cynic's unmourned loss. They're projecting their own buried grief onto you.
You know, if you're listening to this, that is incredibly liberating.
It really is.
You don't have to shrink yourself to soothe the cynic's grief. Their irritation is just the sound of a load-bearing story in their own psyche being threatened. You don't have to absorb their condescension.
It completely neutralizes their power over you.
It does. But, okay, while a cynic might just mock your open door out of unacknowledged grief, there is a much more dangerous demographic out there who sees that open door as a literal invitation.
Unfortunately, yes.
Kriger calls them the ones who study the gentle.
Predators. And this introduces Krieger's metaphor of the unlocked house.
The unlocked house.
Yeah. Picture a beautiful, warm house with a fire going in the hearth, food on the table, totally welcoming to travelers. But there is no lock on the front door.
Not at all.
Right, because the owner believes that putting a lock on the door is an insult to the universe, a cynical declaration of suspicion.
I mean, it sounds wonderfully utopian until someone with bad intentions walks down the street.
Exactly. And predators do not read your soul. They read your behavioral shadows.
Behavioral shadows? Like what?
Yeah. They're scanning the environment for specific tells. The quick, unprompted apology, the nervous filling of silence, the visible discomfort with saying the word no.
They test the perimeter, basically, looking for weaknesses.
And they see the doors wide open. For many sensitive people, this lack of a lock manifests as a behavior margin. Kriger labels overgiving.
Overgiving.
She dives into the case of Maya, a junior project coordinator. Yeah. So Maya was doing not just her own tasks, but constantly stepping in to do everyone else's work, working late, and apologizing for simply taking up space in the office.
Or Renata, another case study in the book, a nonprofit founder who burned herself to the ground carrying every single emotional and logistical burden for her organization, completely refusing to delegate.
Right. And we often praise that behavior as extreme selflessness.
Oh, all the time.
But Kriger unpacks the psychology behind it, revealing that overgiving is, at its root, innocence desperately looking for a safe home. It is actually a subconscious control tactic.
Oh, that's interesting. Because if I do absolutely everything for you, you can't abandon me. I've made myself essential.
Exactly. Overgivers try to buy love and safety with specific currencies. Money, food, relentless care, or extreme usefulness.
Hatefulness.
Yeah. The internal logic is, if I am indispensable, I will be loved, and therefore I will be safe from betrayal.
But it's a deeply flawed premise. As Kriger points out, you can only buy a place in a transactional economy. You cannot buy love.
No, you can't.
When you use usefulness as currency, you only end up surrounded by people who love your service, not you.
You become an appliance. I mean, people don't love their refrigerator. They just expect it to keep their food cold, and they get angry when it stops working.
Ouch. That is so true. So if you're listening to this and realizing you are the one constantly trying to buy belonging by being the useful friend or the indispensable coworker, how do you stop?
It's tough.
How do you break that pattern without feeling like you're abandoning the people you care about?
You have to run a terrifying experiment.
Okay, what is it?
You have to pause the giving.
Just stop entirely.
Just for a bit. Let someone else pick up the check at dinner. Say no to an unreasonable last-minute request at work. Allow an awkward silence to stretch out without rushing to fill it.
Wow.
Become, just for a moment, the one who needs help rather than the one who always provides it.
And watch very closely to see who stays.
Exactly. The relationships built purely on transactions will drift away or get angry. The real relationships will lean in and ask if you're okay. Pausing the giving is the ultimate sorting mechanism between the real and the transactional.
So the way out of the overgiver's trap isn't to swing the pendulum all the way to becoming a hardened, bitter cynic.
Not at all.
It's just to build a door for the house, put a lock on it.
Right. And this is Krieger's ultimate solution, the guarded innocent.
The guarded innocent.
This is where all of her research really culminates. She argues that setting a boundary is not an act of aggression. It is not building a fortress wall that shuts out the world.
Okay.
A boundary is simply a door. A door implies agency. It says, I decide who enters.
A wall says no to everyone automatically, but a door says, I am open, but I hold the key.
I love that. Yes. And you pair that door with a practice she calls discernment without cynicism.
How does that work?
You keep your warm, trusting default, but you watch carefully for evidence of bad faith. Take the case of Sophia, who was navigating the dating world. She had been hurt before, but instead of becoming completely closed off, she learned to observe patterns like love bombing.
The intense, unearned affection and grand gestures right at the beginning of a relationship.
Right. Sophia didn't lose her ability to trust entirely. She just learned to wait and watch how someone reacted to a small boundary, like saying she wasn't available to text all day before handing over the keys to her emotional house.
That's smart.
If they respected the boundary, the door opened a bit wider. If they threw a tantrum or guilt-tripped her, the door locked.
And Krieger highlights that this stance actually creates profound success, the successful innocent.
Yes.
Like Nadia, an entrepreneur who was repeatedly told she needed to get ruthless and thick-skinned to make it in her competitive industry.
But Nadia refused to harden.
She did.
Instead, she used her guarded sincerity to become irreplaceable. She paired authentic warmth with shrewd, unyielding business boundaries.
Which is brilliant.
Because she realized that in a market completely saturated with calculating, cynical operators, her credible sincerity was a massive competitive advantage. People wanted to work with her because she was real, but they respected her because she couldn't be exploited.
She didn't harden, she just added structure to her sensitivity. Krieger uses an incredible analogy about a river here.
Oh, the river analogy. Tell it.
A river that floods a village is a disaster. It destroys everything in its path.
Right.
But channel that exact same water through a narrow course to spin a mill, and it powers the entire town. Sensitivity without boundaries is a flood. Sensitivity with a door is a vocation.
That is so powerful. Innocence combined with courage equals leadership by attraction rather than leadership by dominance. People follow the guarded innocent because they inherently trust them, not because they're afraid of them.
Bringing it all back to you, the listener. To survive a harsh world, you do not have to disappear, and you do not have to harden. You just have to become the guardian of your own light.
Beautifully said.
Anna Krieger's work really proves that a clean heart is not a liability to be corrected. It is a strength to be equipped.
And zooming out, society relies entirely on these guarded innocents, because without them, trust is replaced by contracts, and tenderness is replaced by transactions.
Which leaves us with a final thought to mull over. Think about the concept of the conscience of a group.
Mm.
In your next team meeting or family gathering, consider that the quiet, gentle person who asks the uncomfortable question isn't slowing things down.
No, they're not.
They are performing the vital, thankless moral self-correction that the entire group relies on to keep from drifting into cruelty. What if society's survival depends entirely on the exact people it casually mocks?
That is a really profound question.
We expect the friction of life to create calluses on our hands, and we assume it must do the same to our hearts. But maybe the ultimate achievement isn't growing the armor. Maybe it's feeling the friction, knowing the cost, and choosing to keep your hands open anyway.